Guys, did you know that Nick Fuentes is an incel? Like literally has called himself one and is actually trying to actively recruit them. No? Well, I guess we got something to talk about then, huh? Conversation starter. A good icebreaker, if any. But before we get into that, let's get into the fan art section. This one is from Alois Trancy. Just another slime Suris, because why not? Hope you like it. Well, I do. The next one we have is from The Real Ghost Guy. Hey, Suris. Sorry we didn't get a pic when we met in October at Portland Retro Game Expo, so I drew one quickly. So, for context here, there was a person, as I was walking through the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, there was a person who, like, walked up to me in an Obi-Wan cosplay, and they were manning a booth, which is a cosplay charity booth, and just came up to me and said, "Are you a YouTuber?" Yeah, I do YouTube, yeah. Are you Suris? Yeah. Yes. Why? How do you know? Yes, I'm not Real Cat Girl IRL. But had a very lovely chat with this person, and talked about their organization and what they do, and it was a very fun time. So I actually really like stuff like this because it reminds me of a good time that was had. The next one I have here for you is the one from the Baroness. I call this What is Slime Suris but Jello, aka Jello Suris. It started off as a mid-transformation Slime Suris. Then I thought it looked like a Jello mold, and this was born. You know, I'm okay with it. I'm okay being Jello. I'm all right with that. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it on the fan art section of the Discord. That said, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. And as always, everyone, let's get right into everything. So, let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. The former president of the United States wanted his guests to be seen. His meeting with Ye, aka Kanye West, has already been postponed since the rapper's anti-Semitic outburst this fall had made him a public pariah. But 2 days before Thanksgiving, Trump led Ye and his entourage to a public table at his Mar-a-Lago estate. The group included former Trump advisor as well as a young man named Nick Fuentes, who apparently was an advisor on Ye's fledgling 2024 presidential campaign and one of America's most virulent white nationalists. We have covered Fuentes a lot on this channel as well. Cue a familiar firestorm. Trump's Republican allies distancing themselves from his behavior without denouncing the man himself. Trump, fresh from his own campaign announcement, said he didn't know who Fuentes was, but he failed to condemn him or his ideologies in multiple statements about the dinner. Now, that makes sense to me because that's the thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene did. Remember when Marjorie headlined an event for Nick Fuentes and then immediately said, "I don't know who he is and I don't know anything about him"? I don't believe that. I don't believe you believe that. But for Fuentes, the meeting was a profound success and probably the greatest example of his year-long effort to bring his extremist ideologies into the mainstream. The 24-year-old hosts a nightly broadcast with a cult-like following among young white men who believe that they have lost their rightful place in the United States. For the last 5 years, Fuentes has pushed a vision for an America First movement that fuses white nationalism, anti-Semitism, and authoritarianism, and calls for a nation dominated by white Christian men. In tying himself recently to Trump, a man accused of sexual assault by 19 women who bragged about grabbing women by the pussy, Fuentes is advancing one of his latest strategies for cultivating a following, making overtures to men who feel aggrieved by women. Over the past year, Fuentes has made a point of speaking directly to these men, many of whom identify as incels, in numerous appearances on his nightly live stream and far-right podcasts, and on Telegram. Historically, incels define themselves by being involuntarily celibate, but that term has become inextricably associated with misogynistic incels, men who blame women for their problems and believe that women owe them sex. Fuentes claims to understand them because he is one of them. He says, "I'm an incel. I'm a proud incel," he claimed on his nightly American First podcast. He had never had sex, he explained, because I'm choosing to instead to lead a historical right-wing movement. Since then, Fuentes has done a lot to back that up, painting women as inferior and thus deserving the violent fantasies that incels harbor against them. Fuentes' misogyny is now key to his America First movement, braided with his white nationalism and political aspirations to infiltrate the GOP at all levels and pass legislation to roll back the rights of women, LGBTQ people, Jews, and people of color, and then see a president impose his authoritarian vision. Fuentes did not reply to a list of questions sent ahead for this story. The cross-pollination is already evident. The N-word litters his recent live chats that accompany his broadcasts, as it usually does. But so too does foid and holes, slang used by incels to demonize women. So, to explain that one, he basically seeing women as just holes to be fucked, and femoid, foid being femoid. Which I know that if you're part of, like, say, Xander Hall's community, femoid is also and Vosh's community. Femoid gets reclaimed there a little bit more, as more of a joke and less of a derogatory bit, but in the Fuentes community, that's not how it's being used. The more that misogyny has helped grow Fuentes' influence, the more he has leaned into the strategy. In a recent live stream, Fuentes riffed about how women have created a fucked up society ever since people stopped burning them as punishment for crimes. The solution to this, he said, we need to go back to burning women alive more. Fuentes' white nationalist American movement gained prominence over the 2020 election when it sent its cast of young white male followers to so-called Stop the Steal rallies aimed at spreading Trump's big lie. The big lie, of course, being the one that said that he actually was the president all along and the election was a fraud. Fuentes encouraged his followers, who call themselves gripers, to become the foot soldiers in the disinformation campaign to keep Trump in power. At rallies and on social media, they were programmed to do just that. At least 5 members then stormed the Capitol on January 6th, 2021, while Fuentes energized the crowd on the Capitol steps, telling them to break down the barriers, disregard the police. Following Fuentes' big lie boosting, which also included floating the idea of murdering state legislators who certified the 2020 election results, he was banned from Twitter, reportedly put on a no-fly list, and then subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. Yet, it also became a launchpad for his campaign of hate. In January of 2022, the deplatformed Fuentes launched his own streaming platform, Cozy.tv, which he promised would be censorship-free and explicitly bigoted. We are anti-gay, anti-women, anti-black, anti-Semitic, he said. Fuentes began live streaming on the platform every night. Against a green screen, the New York skyline capped with shooting stars, and often sporting a suit, jacket, tie, and a mustache that makes him look like a pedo, Fuentes was soon miming a professional TV newscast, except this one spewed hate, punctuated by laughter, often for 3 hours or more at a time. Wow, baby numbers. The live stream became Fuentes' new avenue for growing his following. About a month into streaming, Fuentes dangled the bait for incel followers. He said, "Women are irrational. They're more rational than children, but that's not as rational as men, and irrationality does not listen to rationality." He swiftly combined misogyny with racism by going, "When a bitch going crazy, sometimes you gotta grab her. Sometimes you gotta control your bitch. Listen, I would defer to blacks on this. They've got it figured out." Wow! He pointed to former Ravens running back Ray Rice, who in 2014 was caught on tape knocking his fiancée unconscious in an elevator. Fuentes cracked a smile. "Dude, when Ray Rice punched that girl, that was hilarious!" He held back laughter as he recalled another instance of domestic violence. "Remember when Chris Brown beat up Rihanna? I supported that because hitting women is sometimes necessary." His statements echoed a central aspect of incel ideology, the idea that women can't be rational and often deserve violence. With beliefs like this, it becomes misogyny, more even than shared celibacy, that fuels this community and makes them a prime target for Fuentes' ideology. He has another advantage, though. Incel communities are also rife with racism. The invective hurled around on the platform is stomach churning. Incel platforms, for instance, frequently debase black women, referring to them as animals. And they often applaud men for hitting or killing women, especially if that violence was committed by a black man. To them, it both actualizes their brutal fantasies and proves their false and bigoted belief that black men are prone to aggression. Asian women are also often referred to as noodle whores, and black women and men are referred to as chimps, or the N-word, while others blame Jews for porn and advancing race mixing. These platforms are home to incredibly racist understandings of the world, says Megan Kelly, an expert on incel communities. For someone like Fuentes, that suggests a simple pathway from scapegoating women to scapegoating people of color. Do you guys get the idea? You guys get most of the idea here, right? Like, when I say Fuentes is a Nazi, when I say that, I don't say that because I'm trying to be hyperbolic and I'm trying to do the whole, like, aha, anybody I don't like is a Nazi. No. This man, literally, he wears that specific badge with pride. Just as Fuentes was wading deeper into the world of incels, he was also hard at work evaluating his white nationalist ideology, elevating his white nationalist ideology on the national stage. In February, Fuentes held his third annual America First Political Action Conference, a far-right white nationalist alternative to the mainstay conservative political action conference held down the street. This time, he had hard far-right heavyweights, like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, known for her big lie advocacy and embrace of QAnon. She greeted Fuentes on the stage with a handshake and blew a kiss to the thousands of groypers in the audience. Fellow big lie proponents Representative Paul Gosar, Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers, and Idaho Lieutenant Governor Janice McGahan sent video greetings. The following month, Fuentes spied another chance to court incels in a new Secret Service report on a 2018 attack in which a man with a long history of assaulting women shot 6 women and killed 2 in Tallahassee, Florida, in a yoga studio before turning the gun on himself. Incel message boards lit up with analysis, and within days, Fuentes took it to his live stream. The Tallahassee perpetrator was enamored by Adolf Hitler and the Aryan nation. That was what the report said anyway. His YouTube videos described an intense hatred of women, especially those who date non-white men. Fuentes said on his live stream that while he himself wasn't violent, he identified with the incel shooter's ideology. This is now a trend. The month before, Fuentes claimed, "I'm just like Hitler." The later voiced disapproval of interracial marriages, falsely claiming that they led to a higher propensity for mental illness among children born in those relationships. Adherents of this male supremacist ideology believe that women hold social, economic, and political power over men, and that has been made worse through feminism. Kelly told Mother Jones that incels subscribe to this belief, and then some. Incels blame society for their celibacy, and the fixes are therefore found in reestablishing patriarchal norms, walking back women's rights to vote or divorce, or the creation of government-mandated girlfriends. Others still call for the murder of women, for denying them sex, for becoming sluts, and celebrating killers of women like Elliot Rodger, who murdered 6 people while targeting a sorority near the UC Santa Barbara campus in 2014. Talking about the report on the Tallahassee incel shooter, Fuentes said the government is right to fear violence by misogynist extremists like him. When you got a community of guys with nothing left to lose, if they're incels, it's high testosterone. It's aggressive, said Fuentes. They know what the consequences of that will be. Fuentes' knowing tone seemed designed to reassure any disaffected men tuning in. Your grievances are legitimate. You can't be blamed if you seek retribution. That same month, South Korea elected a new president. Online misogynist communities dubbed Yoon Suk-yeol South Korea's incel president. It didn't matter that Yoon is married. Yoon, who had called for the abolishment of South Korea's Ministry of Gender Equality and Family and promised to protect men from the Me Too movement, represented the interests and wants of the misogynistic young men who felt that feminism had gone too far. A prominent incel forum gleefully called this election a welcome and exciting development, and wondered, can this be the start of massive worldwide movements against femoids and their rights? For Fuentes, Yoon's win was proof positive that it was possible to sell an incel platform only to appeal to men, and to gain a massive mainstream following. He then said on his show days later, "The future is to lean in. Lean into these primordial cleavages. Men versus women, the race stuff. We represent the disaffected male." Fuentes launched into what sounded like a political stump speech in which he outlined the world we would create with his followers' help. "Why don't we take the message to men and say, hey men, vote for me. I'll destroy feminism. Make it harder for women to become whores, to incentivize women to be in monogamous marriages for the long term, and to raise kids." The dark fantasy he was selling would not only fulfill his Christian nationalist agenda, it would also give incels the unfettered access to women that they've long sought. That alignment is part of what makes Fuentes' pro-misogyny marketing strategy so effective. This is what right-wing watch researcher Kyle Mantelis says. If they can impose Christian nationalism on this country, that will also solve their incel problem by making women second-class citizens who have no right to refuse to marry them, or to have sex with them, or to bear their children. In his broadcast speech, Fuentes also pointed to another political campaign as inspiration, Donald Trump's. In 2016, Trump won the Oval Office by leaning into his sexist and misogynistic message and targeting men, including incels, for support. The strategy was explicit. A Cambridge Analytica whistleblower hired by ex-Trump campaign head Steve Bannon said Bannon's strategy targeted unmarried straight white dudes who couldn't get laid, because Bannon saw them as prone to conspiratorial thinking and therefore easier to manipulate. A request for comment sent to Bannon's lawyer went unanswered. The list of horror examples grows by the week. This spring, a far-right YouTuber revealed that one of Fuentes' friends was accused of rape by a woman. Pressed about these allegations on a podcast, Fuentes says, "As a rule, I believe no women. I think what every woman says is a lie." A couple months later, America First streamer Dalton Clodfelter echoed Fuentes' call for violence against women. He said he would like to see a woman burned alive at the stake for wearing a blasphemous bikini. Clodfelter didn't directly respond to a question about this statement. And earlier this month, neo-Nazi Andrew Anglin joined a Cozy.tv stream where he said that he couldn't complain if you called him a rape promoter. As Fuentes continues his crusade, his image has somewhat fractured among the incel community, many on unseemly technicalities. Some have questioned his identification with them because of allegations that he's gay, and his admission that he once kissed a girl in high school. What the fuck? Jesus Christ! Which suggested that his celibacy is voluntary. But that occasional skepticism has done little to blunt Fuentes' campaign. His streaming platform has grown in followers and has added a host of far-right Republican activists and Gen Z male streamers to its lineup. His America First movement is weaponizing the insecurities of young men, and Amanda Marcotte wrote in Salon, convincing them that the cure for the entirely normal mix of emotions they're feeling can be found in embracing a fascist movement. I have a question, guys. Do you think Cozy.tv is considered an actual competitor to Twitch? So I say that because Twitch says that they're okay with rebroadcasting content onto other streaming platforms so long as they are not in direct competition with Twitch. That's part of the partner agreement with Twitch. So I wonder, would it be possible to have a bunch of leftists who are on Twitch? Me, Zan, Vosh, Denims, Actual Jake, Shark. Would it be possible for us to all just have accounts on Cozy.tv and multi-stream every time we go live over there? Maybe to convince some of the people in those disenfranchised and more echo chambery communities to leave the way that they're normally thinking. I mean, sure, we'd get a fuck ton of hate brigades as a result, but I mean, think of some of the good that could be done there, if that's even possible. I'm part of... What community am I a part of? It is so hard to pin. Am I part of the atheist community? Am I part of the political community? Am I part of the VTuber community? Am I part of the Sonic community? Nobody fucking knows. I am an anomaly. I could probably insert myself over there without too much issue. We have a little bit more for the article to read, and then we're done with the article. But their support has helped Fuentes make his way into the arms of some of the most prominent aggrieved men in America, from Kanye West to Donald Trump, and headway on his stated goal of moving the window of acceptable political discourse further to the right. We have, in fact, infiltrated the mainstream flank of the GOP. Oh, that one was said by Vincent James. I don't know why I quoted it as Fuentes. He boasted about what could come next, a Donald Trump victory in 2024, followed by the appointment of Fuentes as one of his advisors, where together they transformed the country. Don't say it's far-fetched, he said, because look at what's happened to us just over this past week. Like, I know Fuentes is an incel, at least claims to be one, but the amount of not only depravity that exists within his community, but the amount of success that he is seeing in utilizing it is baffling to me. I wonder what would cause all of his campaigns to fall apart. I wonder. Maybe speculate on that in the comments. That's probably the right thing to do there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. That is as far into the Fuentenology as I'm willing to go. As always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.